Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Topic Time with Harrison Young. It's a little bit moist out there, but it's April, and that's to be expected. I wish it would warm up a little faster, but of course, as usual, we're heating things up in here tonight. I have a really awesome guest. This is her real name is Ann Kulichik, but her stage name is Audrey Noone. She's an actress. She's a film director, writer, script writer. She's been in several projects, and she's doing very well. And I kind of think she looks like Meryl Streep.
Wow, it's been a while since somebody said that, but I used to get that all the time.
What do you mean used to? Why not? Well, I tell you, you look more like her now than you did. Especially now that the camera's on you. I definitely say you look like Meryl Streep.
Well, do you remember The French Lieutenant's Woman?
I do remember it. I'm thinking more of Kramer versus Kramer, but that's okay.
Well, she had dark hair in that one. I had dark hair most of my life.
Oh, okay.
So when that one came out with the dark hair, I was like, oh, you look just like Meryl Streep.
Well, it's true. I mean, the redhead look for Meryl Streep is kind of like what we're all used to. But I guess when you're in films and stuff, you got to be flexible about that stuff. You can change it or whatever, you know. And well, you've done all right. You look, you know, you definitely look like an actress, and I've seen your work, and we're going to talk about that tonight, and we're going to find out about you and your history and everything. So speaking of that, how long have you been acting for?
Well, in my recent life,
all your life,
the past 3 years.
Your current life, let me rephrase that. What were you like growing up? Did you do any acting then, as a kid?
I acted when I was in high school.
Okay.
And I was also in the mime troupe.
Cool. So that made your face up white?
Yes.
Okay. I would have liked
Didn't
to
have to change that much to get it all white.
No, that's true, but it's still, I mean, we're talking paint white.
Yes.
You're not close to paint white, but believe me, they know the difference. Was that in high school? You were in the mime troupe?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
with some friends.
Wow.
And
what high school was that?
That was in upstate New York.
Okay. Cool.
And then it was drummed into me that I needed to get a real job.
Okay.
So I did that for a while. And then 3 years ago, I decided I couldn't live without it.
There you go. 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. All right. So what have you done since? Well, let me ask you this: What made you realize? How long? What transformation in your life made you realize that 3 years ago you couldn't live without it?
I think it's called a midlife crisis.
Oh, I see. I've had that. I didn't have one I haven't had one in 50 years, but I know what that's like. Wow.
Yeah. So you know, I mean, I do what I do for money, and I like it. But you know, I was clear that this is what I wanted to do when I was younger, and my mom was very clear that it was not what I was going to do.
Well, sometimes your parents don't know what's best for you. They think they do.
Well, she's even said in recent years, maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe she did. She's probably happy that you made a mistake and that you took the ball and ran with it.
I am now.
You are now. Okay. So speaking of that, what projects have you done? Let's go over all of them.
Oh, I don't know if I can remember all of them.
All the ones you can remember. We have an hour, so let's
okay.
Get as much elaboration as we can on them.
Okay. So 3 years ago, when I started to audition for other people's stuff, I can't even remember the name of everything, but I did some student films.
Emerson, maybe? Any do film there?
Yep.
Okay.
And other places. I can't remember them all, as well as non-school projects. And then I started to produce my own projects.
Wow.
My first one was called Amy Kidd, Zombie Speech Pathologist.
Okay. Did you cast yourself in it?
Yes.
Cool.
Nepotism.
Lead role? No, that's not nepotism. Yes. That's smart.
Yep. And I actually wrote a whole series for that, 10 episodes, but I have not filmed that.
Okay.
I've made a whole bunch of other shorts that have played in festivals.
Okay.
Let's see. I'd say the one that.
You say they were at festivals?
Yeah.
And where? And all over New England. How far and how wide were these festivals?
Well, let's see. Amy Kidd played in Australia.
Wow.
And I think Greece. I can't remember all the places that it played.
There need translations in some of the countries?
If they did, I didn't do them. They might have.
They might have. Did you go to these? Did you visit the countries too?
No.
Okay,
No.
but that's awesome though.
Yeah. I did one called The Race Card.
Okay.
Starred.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Yeah, starred a bunch of great New England actors. And that one I actually flew to Texas to be participating in a festival that it showed in.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my planes got all screwed up, and by the time I walked into the theater, the credits were rolling.
Oh.
So I just missed it.
Oh, that's aggravating. Well, did you
Yeah.
get to see it again eventually?
Yes, because the Boston Indie Mafia, which is a collective of filmmakers, showed it at an event.
Wow, that's awesome.
So it's really great to be able to experience it with an audience.
Totally,
because
yeah.
you're seeing
To see their
what
reactions.
parts they're reacting to. It's, you know, if you, and especially in the case with that film, I wrote it, I directed it, I edited it. By the time it was in one piece and done, I had absolutely no objectivity about it.
Okay.
And then people would give me feedback, and I'd watch it again, like try to watch it from their perspective. But you're still, I've seen it so many times, I really don't know much about it anymore. So to experience it with an audience is very, very instructive.
Of course.
To see what they're reacting to.
No, I assume the audience didn't know you were there, did they?
They did know, because it was a bunch of filmmakers that were invited to show their films. So all the filmmakers were there, as far as I know, and then they all spoke after their films.
Have you ever shown a film at the Brooklyn Coffee and Tea House in Providence?
I have not.
Okay, you familiar with the place?
I know of it. I haven't been there. Yeah.
Oh, it might be nice to do that. I had the owner on a few weeks ago as a guest.
Anthony Demings. Yeah.
Anthony Demings,
He
yeah.
seems like a great guy. I haven't met him, but I've chatted a little bit with him on Facebook.
Oh, right. Your Facebook friends, and he was a great guest. Well, all right. Well, let's talk about let's talk about what each project was about. What was the race card about?
The Race Card is a group dinner scene. It's 5 people having a wonderful time at dinner. And then the guy whose house it's at, Harold, played by Frank O'Donnell, who is a fabulous actor, comedian. He writes his own musicals as well.
Right.
He becomes an agitator.
Okay.
And he starts going after individual guests, throwing a lot of...
racial stuff?
Yeah, a lot of ethnic slurs at them in a joking manner, but it still gets under their skin.
Of course.
And they eventually get so ticked off that they leave.
Wow.
And then we find out at the end why he did that. There was a surprise ending.
Okay, we don't need to be the spoiler alert, but that's awesome.
As to why he was doing that in the first place. And that's the punchline.
I see. No, I know. That's true. You took something, you took something controversial and you made it humorous, and that's pretty impressive.
Well, thanks. You know, I really didn't see it as that controversial, but after some people saw it, they thought it was really controversial, much more than I thought it was.
Okay. But that's good. You want to get people. I mean, you want to stir people up. That's what makes people interested in what you've done. That's my take on it. I would think so.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the characters, Barb's, related to ethnic foods traditions.
Right.
So I thought that would make it less controversial than, you know, other things you could go after. But apparently that still strikes a chord.
Who played in that? I'm wondering, because I've interviewed a lot of people that were that have been acting, and I'm wondering if there's anyone I know that was in that.
Frank O'Donnell was the lead.
Okay.
Awesome actor.
Okay.
I played a character named Maggie.
Okay, right.
There's an Asian actress named Mai Delapa.
Okay.
Who was wonderful. My actor who played the Frenchman, his name was Will Bouvier.
Okay.
He went to I'm going to get this wrong. He went to an academy in New York City, and I can't remember the first couple words, but he's wonderful. And Mary Ronachek.
Wow.
Played Frank O'Donnell's wife. She was wonderful. She also did the set design.
Okay.
She's a very, very talented set designer.
Cool. Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
These are pretty talented people you're working with.
Very.
Now, It's funny. I don't know any of those names, and I like that because what that means is that if these people like this show, they might want to come on as guests too. I'm always looking for more guests and more talented people, and I'm always looking to shop myself around because I'm an actor too. As you saw me in Paragods, you said you saw me a little in that.
Yep.
But the great thing about as I interject this right now, the great thing about Topic Time for me is that I get to cover people's projects and I get to appear in them. But I guess my long-term goal is to do as much acting as I can. And I actually I was in a play a little over a month ago in Cambridge called Unify. I had the guest 2 days before that was the creator of that, named David Lefkowitz. He teaches theater at the New England Art Institute in Brookline. And he thought I had a really good personality, so he brought me on board. I got to play a hippie protester and the president. So the link to that came out really well. So I just figured I'd throw that in. Well, all right. So let's talk about those other projects. Let's go over each one. What's that series you were talking about that you did?
Amy Kidd?
Yeah.
Well, I wrote a whole season's worth of episodes. I have not filmed any of them, just the pilot.
Okay.
But I started making...
How many episodes have you done with that so far?
One.
Written?
Oh, written?
Yeah.
I wrote 10 episodes.
10 of them, okay.
It's a full story arc.
Right.
And then I was also in a short that was received the award of best short comedy in the Culver City Film Festival.
Okay, wow. Culver City, what state is that in?
That's near LA.
Oh, cool. Okay, wow.
Or in LA, I guess. And that was written by John Fiore.
Okay, I know the name.
Fiore.
Yep.
And directed by Chris Esper.
Oh, I know Chris. He was a guest on my show. Great guest.
And
I know you've worked with him before.
Yeah, he's
awesome.
He's a great guy.
Yep.
And my co-star in that was David Affleck.
And David, of all the people I've had on my show, we've gotten almost 450 hits.
Oh yeah, he's a popular guy.
He is very popular, and I'm hoping to work. And you probably know Stephen Lee Day too.
Yes.
Well, he's my guest next week.
He was in one of my shorts that is in post-production.
Okay, cool.
And he was so funny.
I know, he's a filmmaker and an actor too.
He's wonderful.
I notice these people, it's interesting. It's a lot of this is kind of like the New Hampshire connection, because these people are all from New Hampshire and they're very talented. They're a lot of talented up there, and of course Paraguays is done in New Hampshire as well.
Yeah.
All those people have you ever worked with anybody that was in Paraguays?
Actually, I was on, I think, 2 episodes.
Oh, you were in 2 episodes?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, let me back up a second.
Okay.
The guy who played my zombie is Chris Estes.
Right. Estes.
Estes.
Yeah.
Is that how it's pronounced?
He was a guest too on my show, yeah.
And so we became friends,
Yep.
and then they needed someone to play his mother, even though we're like the same age. I played his mother, his dirty old mother.
Well, don't feel bad. I'm older than both of you. If you're his age, you're younger than me, and I figured you were much younger than that.
That's what people tell me.
Are you the same age as Chris Estes? He's 51. He's my brother's age, but that's younger than me. That's hard to believe. Wow. I would have figured you maybe 35 at the most. That's awesome.
I'll take that.
Definitely, yeah. Why not? Well, okay. So what did you play in Paraguays? I don't think I saw that episode. I've seen several, but I don't think I saw the one you were in.
Well, I'm
or if I did, I would have remembered. I'm sure, but.
His well-lubricated mother.
Okay.
Who?
Did you? Let me ask you this: Did you have red hair in that or gray hair? I mean, did they give you gray hair for that?
No.
Okay.
No.
You don't look old because he has gray hair, and you don't look old enough to be his mother. You look like you could be his daughter. I'm not saying he looks old. All I'm saying is that he's his. You know what I mean?
Yep. I guess they played it off saying that she was very young when she had him.
Right.
Like -10 or something.
Okay. Well, I guess in Paraguays anything goes. I know I've seen some of the episodes.
That's right. So, and she's very dirty-minded.
Cool.
And his friends come to visit him while he's recuperating, and.
Recuperating from what? Oh, I remember what happened. That was the first episode. He had something up his butt, right? Yeah.
I don't know if
that's what it was. That's right. That was the first episode, the very first one. It's Savannah Alexis Guardia, who played like a girl in a coma. Was also I interviewed. She's a friend of mine, She was great in that too, in that first episode. 'Cause
Yeah,
I did see the pilot, and that was it.
I don't think that's why he was recuperating this time around.
Oh, there's something else?
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay, well, you know what it was?
I think he was shot.
Shot, that's it. I didn't think he survived that, but I guess he did. Good for him.
He's the star.
He's the star, cool.
He's a great guy too.
He is.
Really wonderful man.
He's a great singer and a great, that band.
He sings?
Didn't you know that?
I didn't know that he
He's
sang.
in a band
I know
called,
he's a drummer.
No, but I don't know if
Lucid.
he does it all. He's in a band called,
Lucid.
What is it?
Lucid.
Lucid, that's it. Well, he's in the band, right. Yeah, but he's in it. I mean, he does everything. He performed up at the lake that day when I was up there. I was up there I was up there 3 times last year, and he performed. Him and his bandmates, they were great. So, yeah, so I mean, I really had a great time working with Chris. He was a great guest on the show. He was actually my final guest of 2013 at the old station. And I was in a film with him that I didn't see. That was supposed to be edited by Michelle Romano, but it never came out. Bob Wesson in Providence on October 9th of 2013. That was a Wednesday, but I didn't have a show that night. So we got to be in that, but I still haven't seen it. But anyway, so you worked with him, and you played his mother. Mm-hmm. Wow. And just that one episode?
I also appeared briefly in an episode where they were spoofing the beginning sequence of The Breakfast Club.
Okay.
Where all the parents were dropping the kids off at school.
Were you one of the parents? You could have been Molly Ringwald's role. You could have her role.
Yeah, so I had to drop them off at school.
So you played the parent?
Yeah.
Okay. You spoofed. So Chris was one of the kids in detention, and that's wow. Mm-hmm. That is a spoof, because that stuff, nobody looks like they're in high school anymore. I mean, you guys look young, but not that young.
Yeah.
Wow. But I guess not. I guess when they did the show, did the actual film, none of those guys were in high school either. None of those people.
Yeah.
That was separate from the Paragods episode, or was it? Wasn't it?
Well, they were.
Was that a Sean Allen project too?
Yes.
Oh,
no, it was part of Paragods.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. I saw the pool party. That was pretty funny. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of good-looking girls at that party, and I actually got to did a little blooper role. You know Eugenia Schiapoletti? She plays the little.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I did a little blooper role where I was like harassing her, but she seemed to enjoy it. I had a good time on that, but we won't go any further than that. Have you ever worked with Chris Dreyer? Do you know him, young man?
No.
Okay, he's a New Hampshire guy. He had me in a film last year called Monster No More, and I got the hug of gorilla. It was great. You should I'll definitely send you the link, because I'm on. Like I said, if you have any projects I could be in, I'd love to be part of it. All right, so let's talk about the kid thing. You got 10 episodes of that. This is a series, and what's that all about?
Well, there is a zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
And Amy is a speech pathologist.
That's you. You cast yourself as Amy, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And you know,
so let's get me this straight. The only left on Earth is more zombies, very few humans. Is that it?
Yeah, there's some humans, but you know,
more zombies.
A lot of them have been taken out.
I understand. Okay.
So Amy's trying to stay in business, but a lot of her clientele is.
They're zombies.
They've either been wiped out or they're zombies.
Right.
And then she figures out that.
But she's not a zombie. She's a human.
She's not a zombie.
Okay.
Then she figures out that one of the big ways, or the way, that people can tell the difference between a human who's been beaten up and a zombie is if they can talk.
Oh, okay.
So, and there's a movie insert where, you know, this guy is stumbling out of the woods and his friends are sitting there with the guns, not knowing, you know, if they should shoot him. And then when he says, "Hey, it's me,"
okay,
they're like, "Oh." So she realizes that maybe she can market herself to zombies.
Cool.
Because if they can learn how to speak,
then she can stay in business.
That's right, and they won't be such outcasts in society.
Wow. So basically, you made me teach zombies how to speak English, right? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's wild. And this becomes a series. So eventually, that's your goal, is to turn it into a web series, right?
That was my goal. I'm not sure if I'm gonna go through with it.
Because of the credibility issue, or because you just don't have enough people to be zombies, or what?
Well, I've been making a lot of shorts, which are a lot easier to plan and execute, because that's a one-off thing, you know, 1 or 2 days of filming. It's much more involved to make an entire series.
Right.
And I am a speech pathologist, and I.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. And I had a client tell me that she thought that it made the clients look like zombies.
Okay.
So that kind of took the wind out of my sails.
You mean the way you made them? You mean the way you had them talk?
Well, just the fact that I'm treating zombies at.
Well, that's in the film, but you're a real life speech pathologist, you said, right?
Yeah.
All right, now let me figure. I'm not exactly clear what a real life speech pathologist does. Is it someone that gives people, teaches people how to speak correctly?
Yep, it can be a child who is delayed in learning how to speak.
Oh.
Could be someone who stutters.
Right.
Could be somebody who has Parkinson's disease.
Wow.
And their voice gets very quiet, and there's very.
If somebody is really physically ill like that, how can just somebody talking to them help them out?
Well, there's a bunch of strengthening exercises that are very effective to get the voice back.
Interesting.
Their voices, if your vocal folds look like that.
Yep.
With Parkinson's, they can be kind of bowed, so a lot of air escapes like that.
They and then that demonstration, I like it.
Oh my God!
It's all right. It's all right.
That was air.
I know.
Air going through.
Air quotes, just air quotes. Yeah, right.
So you can do exercises that will strengthen up these muscles and make the voice stronger.
Cool.
And they can be intelligible again. I could work with somebody who's had a stroke.
Well, oh my goodness. Same thing, same situation with a voice?
You know, it depends on what their issue is. Could be that they've lost language. We need to bring language back. Could be the way that their muscles work to make sounds.
Wow. It's quite a field.
It is.
Man,
it is. I'm also getting more training in working with dyslexia.
Cool. That's wow. So basically, you're working with speech and eyesight. Now, where did you go to school for the training? I'm just wondering. I mean, I got
my master's degree in speech at Syracuse University.
Which?
Syracuse University.
Oh, Syracuse, upstate New York. I've been there. Yeah. I was actually there April 19th, 1980. It was a Sunday. I'm sorry. I take that back. I was there April 21st, 1980. Sunday. I happened to be driving through it, and I was going to go cross country, and I ended up going as far as Syracuse and deciding to turn around and come home. Chickened out, couldn't do it. But
well, this winter gave you a taste of what Syracuse is like every winter.
Well, I know, but it's like that around here most winters too. It's nothing new for me. I mean, I don't know if were you not living in New England during 1978 during that blizzard year? Because I think that was worse.
Not in '78.
Oh, there you go. So that was the most prolific snowfall I remember. Even though we had more snow this year totally, but we didn't quite get hit with as much of a total in one time as we did in '78. '78 was
like that in Syracuse.
It probably
every year.
Right? Is it really? Well, yeah, I'm sure it is. You're right up near right near the Niagara Falls area, and I'm sure there's plenty of snow coming down from there. Right.
Lake effect, they call it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be there during the winter. I was there during the spring, almost 35 years ago to the day. I have a photographic memory for dates, so if you told me a date of birth, I could tell you what day of the week you were born and what I was doing. That's up to you. You don't have to. You can, but but I definitely remember that. I was, I just got in my new car, a Gremlin, but I don't want to get too far off the track. So what about you showed some of the pictures the things on your website look really good. Some of the projects. One of them was a commercial for Channel 10 you did. I'd like to hear about that. You were doing some commercial for Channel 10 News.
Yeah, that was fun.
And how you got into that? How did you end up doing that?
They put a call out on a Facebook group called Hollywood East Actors.
Oh, that's Erica Derrickson's project.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
We're going to talk about her too, because she was a wonderful interview too, and I want to know how much work you've done with her as well. But go on. So it was actually her that got you that part?
I mean, her page.
Right, her page. Wow.
Yeah.
So they did you audition for that with a lot of other people?
No, I just I forgot how I tickled the guy. He said, "Come down," so I drove down there.
Yeah, yeah.
And we stood at a very noisy street in the middle of downtown
Providence, probably.
Yeah. And I was amazed that their microphones are really good because it didn't pick up any of the ambient noise.
It's
just
like our
my voice.
microphones. Unfortunately, there's no ambient noise here, but
I mean,
you're kind of soft-spoken, so it's still going to sound good.
There were loud buses going by. And
I know.
It was amazing.
It's true. I know. Yeah, and then you knocked that one out of the park. That was great.
Thank you.
Have you ever considered doing anything in TV news? I'm just wondering. Aside from your acting.
No, I'm not. I'm not into news so much.
Okay.
I'm not a reporter.
What about the possibility of doing interviews, though? Have you ever done one? Have you interviewed anybody
I
before?
would love to interview people.
Okay.
I think I'd be a really good interviewer.
I agree.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's why I got here. I always try to give advice to my guests that might behoove them, and in the future. And I think you'd be great at that. I don't know. I mean, have you ever considered starting your own public access show? That would give you a perfect opportunity to do it.
Not really. Not in that format.
I don't know how much time you have available, but that's another thing you have to consider.
I do work full time,
Right.
And I do make films and act in other people's, and that basically takes up all of my time.
Takes up all your time. But eventually, times change, things come up. You may have a little lull in the film industry, and you might decide to give it a shot.
In fact, none of my films would exist if it wasn't for my cable station.
Well, okay. Tell me about that. What's your cable station?
Billerica Access TV.
Great town, Billerica.
They are fabulous, fabulous people there.
Awesome.
Yeah, when I've gotten into many snafus, and my pal Alex has pulled me out of each one of them.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, they've taught me a lot too.
I don't know if we should be praising another cable station at this one, but I don't think there's a problem. It's not a big. I mean,
if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't be here, so I'm happy about it. I love that town, Billerica. Great town. It's the only town in Massachusetts where I live, and the real estate prices are really reasonable there. I don't know if you've ever. I've actually a bunch of years ago I was looking for a new house. I checked up in Billerica. The prices look great. I just didn't end up going up there, but it's a nice town.
It is a nice town.
It is a nice area. I love Middlesex County, and that's awesome. So I mean, when you say it's your station, what have you done there? I guess you've been interviewed there. Right?
Actually, I was interviewed on somebody else's show there.
Okay.
About speech therapy.
Oh, cool.
But just learning how to make a film, it was those guys that taught me.
Oh, they helped you with that?
Yeah.
Do they do films too? I mean, do they, aside from their TV shows, do they create like film projects that are like the kinds you create?
No, they're devoted to helping members create content.
You are a member, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, but do you live in Billerica?
No, but my business is in Tewksbury.
Right next door.
Yeah, and
great
Tewksbury
area.
does not have a cable station, so they let me join as the orphan from
That's
Tewksbury.
wonderful. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And so I actually, it's funny. I interviewed some people in Tewksbury a couple of years ago. This woman her name is, I can't even think of her name, but she started a dating service, and I had interviewed her at her house before a couple of years earlier. And she decided that she was supposed to, at that time she was helping people, and she felt that it was detrimental to play the shows on the air because of some of the footage of people that were into acting that we showed might compromise the legality of their privacy. But then she invited me up to her place in Tewksbury to do a show there, and that was kind of cool. That was on March 11th, 2013, so a little over 2 years ago.
Nice.
I can't think of her name, but it was in one of those little business condos. It was a really nice area. It was on 3A. Is your business on 3A?
No, it's on Main Street.
That's not 3A.
Nope, it's 38.
Oh, 30, maybe, yeah, okay.
38.
But 3A goes through the town too, right? I think it does.
Not sure.
Well, okay, but anyway, that's what it was. So, all right, so that's awesome. So you've been interviewed about your speech pathology business there. Mm-hmm. Now, how did you end up in New England from upstate New York if you grew up in upstate New York?
Well, it's funny because I was born here.
Okay, what do you mean when you say here? Where, in Boston?
I was born in Needham.
Needham, great town.
And I just, right before this interview, I drove to my old house in Needham. Well, I was in Needham because I was there for a rehearsal for a film.
Okay.
And
a film that you wrote or someone else?
Someone else.
Okay.
And so I decided to check out the house where my family lived when I was born.
Cool.
It was emotional.
So, yeah, I bet it was.
So that was interesting.
Well, did you live there before you moved upstate New York?
Yeah. So we moved out of Needham when I was a toddler.
Okay. You remember the house, though? You must have a pretty good memory if you were a toddler.
I don't remember the house, but I remember seeing the pictures of it a lot.
And you know what house it was?
I got the address. And found it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it just gave me an idea for a great film. What if your past self had said, "Hey, And how think about, you know what I mean? I know we see movies, we see a lot of ghost films about people who've passed on, but what about the possibility of meeting your past self calling to you? Wouldn't that be something? Just an idea. I like to give people, I've tried film
What
writing.
would you tell your past self?
What's that?
What would you tell your past self?
I tell my past self, don't sweat it. You know you're getting picked on and you're a fat slob now, which I used to be, but look at you, but what do you see yourself in 40 years? You'll be amazed. And voila.
Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, but I'm more concerned about what my future self would tell me. I want my future self to look back and say, "Hey, you've reached the pinnacle of success that you've wanted to reach," and that's what I'm hoping will happen for all of us. And that's why I do the show. I like to think that between myself and my guests, it's going to help. Me interviewing people like yourself who are doing very well is going to help. Is going to benefit everybody. It's going to be a win-win situation for me and the guest. The guest is going to be able to look back and say, "Hey, he was part of my steps up to this great ascension of success that I've reached," and I'm going to be able to say she or he were very integral in getting me to where I'm at eventually too. See, that's how it all works. I always say everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. And now, have you ever had any major roles in major films? I was in Shutter Island and I was in Amistad.
No, being that I work full time.
Right, but even as young, when you were younger, you never did either.
No.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. But there's so much stuff. There's so many things being done around here now, especially with you. I mean, you and people that like yourself who love creating stuff like that. And ultimately, in all likelihood, you will eventually, if you'll create it. You'll either be in someone else's major film, or you'll create a major film, and it'll win an Oscar or something like that, or it'll be at least nominated. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
I'll settle for making money.
And make money, of course. Nothing wrong with that, right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what was the film you were rehearsing for today in Needham?
It's a student film where I play.
What school?
BU.
Cool. And Needham, does BU have a Needham campus, or is it just happen to be where the shooting?
The set is in Needham.
What's that?
The set.
The set was in Needham. Okay, yeah. What was that about?
It's about a girl who is struggling with her mental health.
That would be you, right?
Nope. It's the actress who plays my daughter.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the evil mother who caused her to have her mental illness.
Well, Joan Crawford in you, do you?
Yes.
Cool.
In fact, I call her
Dearest?
Dearest.
Ah, but you have her call you Dearest.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big Joan Crawford fan. You know, aside from on Meryl Streep, I also saw a little bit of Juliette Lewis. Not Juliette Lewis. There's a woman who, she was on Seinfeld and she played George Costanza.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
No, not Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Come on, don't toy with me. You know, not her. You don't look like her. I mean, you're very pretty, but I'm not talking about Julia. Do you watch Seinfeld?
Yeah.
All right. Have you ever seen that episode with George Costanza? He works for the Yankees and he hires a secretary and she makes more than he does, and they do the thing under the desk.
I did not see that one.
You never saw that one? Well, you kind of look like her too. But she's been in some other projects. She's kind of cool, and she's like a wild-looking redhead, and she wears glasses. You don't remember that one?
No.
Are you familiar with Sarah Silverman, the comedian?
Yeah.
She's my cousin.
Really?
Yes. I love dropping that tidbit of information, especially when someone doesn't know it. That's really cool.
So, did you see her much when you were growing up?
No, she's a lot younger than I am. Sarah wasn't born until 1970. I was already in 6th grade. I only saw her in person once, and that was on Saturday, November 14th, 1998, when she came back to Newton, which is next to Needham, as you probably know, to do a little stand-up bit at a local temple, no less. But I see her father from time to time, and I actually, her sister Laura, who's also an actress, and she's a redhead too, but you don't really look like her. But she and I hooked up once. There was a sitcom. She was in Sarah's show on Comedy Central called the Sarah Silverman Program. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Laura is her real sister. I don't know if you remember any of the episodes verbatim.
No, I mean I don't think I saw a full episode because I don't have pay TV, so I've just seen clips on YouTube.
Okay, well, you probably, if you watch it, you'll see Laura. She's the redhead. That's Sarah's real sister.
Okay.
But back in the 90s, there was an animated series called Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist.
Uh-huh.
And it was one of the funniest animated series on TV, I think. I think it was funnier than The Simpsons. I mean, some of the shows that Seth MacFarlane puts out is pretty funny, but I think that this was pretty funny, and I liked it so much that it turns out Laura was the voice of, this was about a therapist named John Katz, who was a real comedian in Boston. But in the show, he plays a therapist who has like a stay-at-home son who's lazy and doesn't do anything in his mid-20s. And he interviews, and he has all his patients are celebrities. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was actually one of his patients. So was Winona Ryder, so was Ray Romano, and of Everybody Loves Raymond, Joy Behar.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that they say on the show are basically material that they use in their comedy. And Laura played the receptionist, and I called her up one night, and we had a long conversation. I said, Laura, I really think the show is great. So she invited me to come and see. The show we had on Comedy Central from 1995 to 1999. She invited me in early 1998 to come see the audio portion of the show, which is done in Watertown, Mass. And I did. I got to go out and see it. And it was great. So Laura isn't quite as famous as Sarah, but she's been in some stuff too. She was on the show with Kevin James and Leah Remini.
King of Queens.
King of Queens. Yep, she was on one of those episodes. She played one of Leah's workers in her office. She was on. She was in an episode with Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So she was in a movie called Half Baked that they filmed in Toronto. But it was a pretty funny film. When I talked to her on the phone, they were just about to fly her up there to do a film, and she was great in that. So she's been in some projects too. She's been in a few different things. But Sarah's probably more. I mean, Sarah's hosted SNL, as you probably know. She just hosted it last fall when Maroon 5 was on as musical guest.
So she grew up in New York, right?
No, Sarah grew up in Bedford, New Hampshire.
Oh.
But Sarah's grandmother grew up in Brockton, where I grew up and still live. And Sarah's grandmother and grandfather were siblings.
I'm surprised you didn't get together more.
Well, Sarah's a busy girl. I mean, and I'd love to get her on my show. I've been trying. She knows I have the show.
No, I mean when you were growing up.
When we were growing, yeah, but she's 11 years younger than me. We were just, and I didn't. Well, let me tell you something. I actually made a mistake when I told you the only time I ever saw her in person was that event. I saw her in person when she was a little kid, long before she became famous, at my grandfather's 80th birthday party on September 4th, 1983. And she showed up there as a little kid, about this tall. She was the apple of her father's eye, but nobody knew her then, except as Donald Silverman's youngest daughter. And she was the one who somehow in the early 90s got impressed Lorne Michaels that she could write, and ended up doing script writing for SNL.
Oh, okay.
And then she ended up being on the staff, and then she ended up doing something violent to a fellow cast member and getting fired until she got called back to host it back last fall.
Something violent?
Yeah, she's a little whacked out, to say the least. Oh yeah, I don't know what she did exactly, but I only found that out myself last year that she did that. And I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't know what it was that she did exactly, but whatever it was, it got the eye of Lorne Michaels, and they canned her. They canned the butt. Now, she's written some stuff for it. She wrote an NBC pilot, which is pretty lame. But you got to remember, Sarah's humor is quite raunchy and often can't be censored, so you can't really put anything on NBC.
Yeah.
But Sarah will never win an Oscar. That's not her style. She'll always be. I mean, but she dated Jimmy Kimmel for 5 years. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that.
Right. Well, during the time she was with him, she probably got more. Because of that, she got more projects during those 5 years, from 2003 to 2008, than she got during any other time of her career. But she'll always be pretty well known as, the potty mouth comedian.
Yeah.
And like a female shock jock, like the female Howard Stern type. So. Well, but we didn't hang out because she was just so much younger than me. And I only found out she became famous when I saw that Seinfeld episode for the first time, and actually didn't even know who she was, and I found myself kind of lusting for her. I know that sounds, hey, I admit it, she's hot. She was hot. She's getting kind of old now, but I go, and when I found that out, I said, "Oy vey." Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. The show isn't going to air till 8 o'clock.
Perhaps we should all do genetic testing on everybody.
To find out what?
Just in case, we don't have any awkward encounters.
We're not going to
make sure you're not related to.
I'm not going to. I'm not worried about that. Even let's say we weren't related, she's still out of my league. She really is, and I could see that immediately when I saw her on the show. Well, I'll tell you what she did though. Are you familiar with Who Say?
No.
Who Say is like Twitter. It's like one of those social media.
Is that Asian?
What's that?
Is that from an Asian country?
No, Who Say is Who Say, WHOSAY.
Oh, okay.
A lot of celebrities use it. She actually sent me a picture of her nipple on Who Say. Yeah, she did, I swear.
Noone, directly to you?
Yeah, directly to me. It was on my email. It said,
Okay.
it came out through the Facebook network, but it said Sarah Silverman has sent you this. I go, what the hell? What is she doing? Is she nuts? I don't know if it's, so I'm saying.
Maybe that's why she got fired from Saturday Night Live.
No, that was long after Saturday Night Live. This was, Saturday Night Live was 19, she got fired in the 90s.
I'll bet it's not the first time she's done that.
Not, to me it was. To me it was, yeah, so it's just so you know, it was pretty wild, but I'm saying, all right, let's talk, we're talking about Sarah. I want to talk about, there was your most recent project that I saw on your Facebook page. You were sitting next to a guy in a doctor's office.
Yes.
Now talk about that if you would.
Yes, that's a really fun one.
I'm sure it is.
It's in post-production.
Okay, what is it?
It's called What the Doctor Ordered.
Okay.
It stars Sean McLaughlin as my husband, and they basically get into food fights.
Cool.
A lot. It is a comedy.
Yep.
And it was filmed at a house and in an office.
Well, let me ask you this. It looks like you were in a doctor's office. Now, were you like supposed to be in marriage counseling?
Yes.
Ah.
Yes.
Okay.
Jean Lones plays
I know the name.
psychiatrist.
She's a Facebook friend, but I've never met her. But
yeah, she's
okay.
wonderful. Yeah, she plays the doctor.
Cool.
And
Yeah,
that's
she
like
looks
a
like
flashback
she has that
scene.
professional air about her.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that's like a flashback scene.
Gotcha.
From the kitchen where the food fight is happening.
Okay.
And when I went to the Boston Indie Mafia event, I met a young...
where exactly was that held, by the way? I know it was
Somerville.
Boston, but where? What?
Somerville.
Where?
Somerville.
Somerville, okay, gotcha.
So I met a young animator there. So she's going to be doing the outgoing credits.
You want to tell who she is?
Her name is Danielle Laurentano.
Okay.
Hope I said that right.
So sounds like you did.
One of my films that was made by the fine folks at the Stories by the River called The Look, I think you saw that one.
I think I did.
That was directed by a woman named Yvonne Labarge. That's where I met Yvonne. And I discovered that Yvonne has a very fine understanding of comedy.
Cool.
So I asked her to direct this one.
Yeah.
Lots of times I direct my own things, but this one I just didn't feel like dealing with the choreography of the food fight.
Okay.
So I asked Yvonne to direct it, and I'm very, very glad that I did.
Well, that's great because
she gets it.
You know, people.
She really gets it.
You recognize talent when you see it, and you bring it on board.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome.
She's a redhead too, so.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sure she is.
Her production company is called Super Ginge Productions.
Okay. Speaking of production companies, what's the name of yours? Do you have one? Or do you not have a name, or just? I mean, you do production, so.
I've been using AK Speech, which is the name of my speech therapy company.
Oh, I see. Because
that's an LLC.
Doesn't it confuse people that you use the same name for your both
Yeah, I
companies?
don't really use it that much. I mean, just like when I'm applying to a film festival and they say, "What's the production company?" I'll write that down.
But you get it all. You got the whole protocol down. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I need to get better at some things. I need to get better at graphics so I can make myself some posters, because some festivals ask for that, and I'm like, I don't have a poster.
Well, you'll work on that, and you will get better as needed for sure.
I'll have to go back to my cable access station and learn that skill.
There you go. they do pretty good graphics here too, by the way. But you have a loyalty, and that makes sense. Now, what about steak knives? That was my father, by the way. We were watching that the other night. He was cracking up.
Yeah.
Talk about that if you would.
Well, I play a total nutcase,
Yep.
nut job. Her name is Katrine.
Right.
Her husband has just given her a birthday party.
Is that David Affleck?
That's
That's
David
what I
Affleck.
thought. So the two great guests, you're talking about another. Wow, that's wonderful.
And he gives his wife steak knives for her birthday.
Yep.
And she thinks that that's quite a demeaning present, so she decides to use them against
But
him.
there's something more to going on. Didn't he cheat on her prior to this event, or didn't she think he did?
I
Because
never
I saw the film, and the phone rang, and she said, if that's Marianne or whatever the girl's name is, you're dead. So I mean, so she thought he was cheating on her too.
She thought it. Yep.
Okay, as long as we know. Okay, that's right. That was obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I never interpreted him as actually having an affair, but most guys who watch it interpret.
Of course they would.
interpret
That's
it
what the phone. That was as soon as everything was. he was patching things up, and all of a sudden the phone rang, and she goes, "I better not be." What I forget the woman's name.
Barbara.
Barbara. Okay.
Barbara.
Barbara. Right. So that, well, of course people are going to think that. Everyone's going to think that. What else would they think?
Just that she's a controlling, manipulative witch.
I know. Yes, but
you're walking on eggshells whenever you're around her.
Right, but you brought in another person. You brought in a phone call with a woman's name, with an actual woman's name. So of course people are going to think there's cheating going on or infidelity.
Well, we don't know who's on the phone.
No, we don't. But we're going to think that she suspects someone specifically of being the mistress.
Yep.
Right, and that, I mean, I don't know how you think that no one would think that, or why you were surprised that people would think that. It's a great plot. Don't get me wrong, but
I just think he.
What do you think? People.
I think she's extremely jealous.
Maybe they think it was Barbara, his mother, or something.
I just think she's an extremely jealous person, and
right.
and she'll trump up anything in her mind.
Well, the reason I mentioned that was because sometimes there have been cases in my family, sort of like when my grandmother was alive. My father's mother could be pretty manipulative, and she'd ask him to do things my mother would rather he didn't do because it took time away from them. So that's the only other thing I would think it could be. But that's certainly a possibility.
But it's open for interpretation.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is. I suppose so. All right, well, so...
I actually asked John, the writer, that specific question.
John who?
John Fiore, who
wrote
the script.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he said it's whatever you want it to be.
Okay. So why did you have him write the script?
Well, he wrote the script and contacted me to make it.
Okay, to produce it. Okay.
So I said, all right.
So how many people do you think call you with script ideas or to combine with? Or ballpark it. How many people have contacted you to help them with projects? Would you say, or you've contacted?
Oh gosh, I don't even know where
to start.
If you don't
know, give me like maybe over 50.
No, not over 50.
Over 50. Over 30?
No.
Oh, okay. Well.
Probably 20. Under 20.
Under 20. Okay, that's not bad though. That's pretty impressive.
But the more I do projects, people seem to contact me for behind-the-scenes stuff.
Okay.
Like, will you produce this or will you whatever? And that's, I don't know, I often have to turn that down because I just don't have the time.
You don't have the time.
And, I started producing my own projects because I wanted to act.
Right. You can put yourself in them. How easy is that?
Well, it's not easy at all.
Well, I'm not saying it's easy, but I mean, but it gives you great access for doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty important.
And honestly, a lot of it has to do with my schedule.
Yep.
I have my own business. I have to work. It's hard for me to be available for any professional project.
Exactly.
I certainly can't drop my clients to the when you get a call.
How many days a week do you do your speech pathology?
5.
5 days a week. So do you still have time to do films during the week, or do you have to pretty much save them for the weekend?
Every once in a while. Like today, I had the rehearsal.
Okay.
But it's mostly weekends.
Right. Okay. But you're self-employed there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you pretty much make your own hours. But I know you have to accommodate your patients, but
yeah.
It's but in your case, even a slow day can turn into a blessing if you got other things going on, like film projects.
Yeah, it's just hard to plan that in advance. I try to take advantage of as many appointments as I can get.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
It's
a balance.
So what about your family members now? What do you have? You have like kids or anything, husband or any of that?
I am married.
Good, that's awesome. So your husband happy for your film career? Is he involved at all, or in your speech pathology?
Well, he helped me set up my website for
and it is
for
a
my
great
business.
one, I might add.
I meant for my speech therapy business.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
He helped me set that up.
Yep. Sure, that's a great one too.
Well, I had the same web guy do both of them.
Okay.
Which was his friend from college.
Okay.
Excuse me. So he's, I do the heavy lifting.
Okay.
But he's busy doing his job too.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, okay, so you guys have a pretty good, good relationship and stuff, and it's a good work relationship. But he doesn't do he's not involved in any filmmaking or speech pathology? All right.
Nope.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'm sure he'll be proud of you for your appearance on my show. I'm hoping, and I hope I know I am already. All right. So so here we are. We're already like 1/3 of the way through the new year, the 2015. What does your summer look like in terms of projects, film projects?
Well, I've been asked to do a bunch from other people, and I'm kind of taking a backseat from making my own right now.
Okay.
Just because I was really knocking myself out there for a while, and I needed to.
You need to relax and kick back.
Well, I needed to catch up with my business. I fell behind with that.
Sure.
And,
Oh, wow. Okay.
stuff like that. Tend to my life.
Right.
And so I've actually been sending in some auditions to, very select few, not that many.
Okay.
I'm trying, and I'm also have some projects that are in post-production, so I want to bring those to fruition.
Okay.
And
How long
also-
do you think? And you can't even. And that means you're editing them, right? You will be. Is that when you say post-production? Isn't the final? Isn't that like the phase before they get edited? Wow. Isn't that the editing phase, post-production?
Editing, titles,
Right.
music,
Well, that's all editing,
color,
isn't it?
Color grading. It's some editors do all that stuff, some don't.
Right, but I mean, when you were adding music and adding titles, that's all. Isn't that all inclusive in editing?
It's often during the editing process.
Okay, okay. Well, tell me, what have you done with Erica Derrickson? I know we talked about her. She's a great actress, and she was a great interview a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, we met during a rehearsal for a web series called The World's Worst Director.
Okay. Anything to do with Seth Chitwood in that?
Yeah.
Okay, I saw that.
That's
too.
his. I think it was his first comedy series.
Yeah, he's very good. I interviewed him too.
He cast me as his mother.
For some reason, you're the motherly type. We got a lot of people. Interesting.
Which was great fun because the character Millie was total.
He may be old enough to be his mother. He's a lot younger than he looks, though. He's only 24 or something.
Yeah, he's quite young. So that character was a lot of fun to play. She was just very spacey, but at the same time she could pack a punch.
Right.
And the actor who played his father was Frank O'Donnell.
Okay.
That's how I met him, and I asked him to do my film. He was perfect in that role.
Awesome.
So Erica, I think it was just in the first season, played Seth's
Well, I remember
arch
Erica in
nemesis.
that. I saw that. Yeah, she was great in that.
Yeah.
She played like the girlfriend, I think.
Yeah. So I met her at a script read-through.
Okay.
That's how I met her, and then
Yeah, she
eventually
sang his praises. She sang Seth's praises when I interviewed her. I interviewed her a few months before I interviewed Seth. So, okay.
And then eventually she did some headshots for me.
Right. You mean she took yours or you took hers? Oh,
She
took
took
yours.
mine.
She's a great photographer.
She is. She's a
amazing.
wonderful photographer.
Yeah, and I know that she and her former boyfriend, I can't think of his name. Ben Lewis or something. Ben Maitland Lewis. They were working on a project for a Boston reality series, and it never really took because it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I watched a few episodes.
Yeah, I did. I watched it. I'm actually working on one too right now with somebody.
Yeah.
Trying to get a write-up in the Globe. I was told today that somebody might be interested in doing it, so that would be a big step for us.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope it works out. It's actually supposed to give people a chance to. I had my co-director. Well, I'm actually his co-director. He's the Brains was a guest on my show a few weeks ago with his caterer and another guy that was supposed to be doing like the soundtrack. And speaking of that, have you ever done anything in music at all? Singing, dancing, music videos?
Back in the day.
Yep. And by the day, you meant when?
Like the 80s.
Okay.
I was a jazz singer.
Cool.
And I have
in a band or by yourself?
In a band.
Cool.
And I have a degree in music.
From Syracuse?
From University of Massachusetts.
Which one?
Boston.
Cool.
I was a voice major.
You do have a nice voice.
Well, thank you.
Do you ever sing now at all?
No.
Okay.
I haven't sung in a long time.
Really? Well, I'm thinking you might want to bring it back, and you might want to, you know what else might be kind of cool? Maybe doing like a little silly, like a parody on an opera or something. You're not fat or anything, but I'm sure you could still bellow out some notes if you wanted to. Just an idea, just a thought. Just doing like a musical.
It's an idea.
Musicals are cool. My mother was a big musical fan, and I used to think she played these records, Cabaret and all this, and I'd be like, oh, stop it, put something good on. Let's listen to a little Cheap Trick. But you know what? A couple of my guests.
I loved Cheap Trick.
What's that?
When I was in high school.
Aren't they great?
Oh,
Didn't I see you cry? Right? Yeah.
Saw them live, and I made my way all the way up to the stage and saw.
Good thing security didn't tackle you.
He was my boyfriend at the time. Well, I was still in the audience.
Who's the lead singer? What's his name?
Robin Zander.
Okay, I never knew the name.
But he wasn't my boyfriend. My boyfriend was the bass player.
Okay.
Tom Peterson.
I know, you see the guy with the mustache?
No,
They did the remake of Don't Be Cruel, and he smoked a cigarette in 1988.
I don't know about that one.
You never saw that video? Don't Be Cruel? They did the remake of Elvis, Don't Be Cruel. 9 years after they did all those other songs, like the Dream Police and the one we just mentioned, I Want You to Want Me, and all that stuff. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what about? So have you ever been in a music video? Have you ever?
No.
Okay. All right. So you're a big fan of them. What I was going to say was I was right. Well, I like musicals, and I didn't know how much I liked them until I actually had a couple of guests on that were actresses that were in musicals, and I went to I try to support all my guests after the fact, after the show ends. I always like to plug. Number one, I'll plug them on Facebook, whatever they do. Number two, if they do something that I think that I have time to come check out, I'll definitely do it. If I get a chance to. Well, two of my guests were young girls. One was an actress in Emerson. She's the student there now, but last year around this time she had just been accepted. So she was in a play called The Drunk Chaperone, which is a big musical. She played Janet Van Sydow. That's a pretty big musical. And I went to see her in Walpole, in the little town of Walpole, which is famous for its prison. And it's but I never knew it had a little theater, but it didn't. Last spring I went to see her. And
Talk about a captive audience.
Yeah, we were captive. Right, exactly. I don't think there were any prisoners in the audience, but it was a great take. And this other girl named Kayla Caulfield, who's still in high school, who's a great singer and a great model, and I went to see her do a musical somewhere near a town of, I think she's in Wakefield or something. No, Melrose, one of those towns. So I'm saying musical could be kind of cool if you ever want to consider, just an idea. It's up to you. But
I'd love to do theater, but it is so...
I'm not talking about theater. I'm talking about a musical film.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, something where you can write musical dialogue and sing.
Oh
either
my
sing
gosh,
or have someone else sing it, or
that
both.
would take so much work.
I find people that can do it and that can do it with you or for you.
Yeah.
You seem to be pretty good at that in terms of finding people like that.
Yeah, it's just a lot of work.
I'm not saying it's not a lot of work, but everything in life is worth the effort if you want bad enough.
It's true. It's true.
Well, we're almost out of time. You really want to give any quick shouts out to anybody, or the people you just mentioned? We're all going to see this show eventually.
I think I've mentioned everybody, but I'd like to give
Erica Derrickson. If you can get YouTube over there in India, definitely check this show out.
Well, she'll be back. She'll be back in a month or two.
She'll be back, yeah. Well, she'll see the link. She's still on Facebook.
Yeah.
She's still a Facebook friend of mine, and I'm sure she is of yours too.
Yep.
So that'll be cool.
Yep. Yvonne LaBarge, my director, who's doing all the posts for What the Doctor Ordered, and there is a Facebook page for What the Doctor Ordered,
cool.
So you can see the updates. There is also a Facebook page for The Look, which is the other film that I did with her on that. You can see that on YouTube. The Look. The Race Card is on YouTube as well. Amy Kidd, Zombie Speech Pathologist is on YouTube. And there's a couple others that are in post and waiting to see the light of day. One is a short sci-fi with Stephen Lee Day.
Who's going to be my guest next week?
Mm-hmm. He's awesome.
I can't wait.
He's a wonderful guy. And I'm trying to think. There was a film that I directed that's in post called The Numbers Game that was written by John Fiore.
Okay. Well, guys, that's it. I want to thank you for being my guest tonight. We're going to do the cheer dance and wrap it up. See you all next week. Take care.